Welcome back to the Piece of Grit podcast. We have a part 2 today, plus a half, part 2.5, awesome. Because you got your son here today. Carlton Washington is with us. We got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. But thank you, obviously, for making the drive. We got a lot of stuff that's behind the scenes that's in the works. But thank you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Who do you have with you today? We have a special surprise.
Paul Washington, my 13-year-old son.
How tall is he, by the way?
He's about 6'6", about to be 6'7".
At 13 years old?
Yes, sir.
That's insane.
Yes.
I was 5'2.5" at 13 years old. And when were you 5'2.5"?
Probably in the third or fourth grade.
Probably fourth grade.
Some people are meant for basketball. Some people are not. I am definitely not. What brings you guys into town?
So you guys starting a journey with your network and looking to venture out and help some people in terms of breaking down barriers, freeing people's time up, freeing people from rat race, and hoping to give people some purpose and meaning in their lives and discuss these things out in the open, while also hoping to help people become free of corporate America.
Yeah.
I always disclose to people that I'm a corporate refugee, and I feel like it's my next calling is to help people who are similar to me and looking to find out what's next and help them to navigate that pathway to what's next. And so we're here for that. And then after we leave here, we're going to basketball. So
hell yeah. What's the tournament?
I can't keep up.
It's a state tournament. Yeah.
Are you in AAU?
I play AAU and national.
Okay, but is this for?
This is the AAU. And
okay.
Next week he has he's on a team that's Nike EYBL, and they tend to go further out the state in different parts of the country. So everywhere from Vegas to Texas to anywhere in between.
Why do you think it's so important for kids, especially at his age, to get into sports? Like, what do you think that teaches? What has that taught your son? And like, why is that such an integral part of what you do?
So, want to make the clarification. I do believe sports are great for kids. I do not believe AAU and travel sports are great for kids. And the reason I say that is because of what you just said a second ago. This guy is 13 years old. He wears a size 16 shoe. He's 6'6". He will be 6'7" by tomorrow. And I say that to say the only reason why we were on the road with him is because he actually has a shot at basketball as a career. Otherwise, there's no way in hell we would be doing this amount of travel, all the investment dollars and everything like that. And I just say that to people because I see all these people, whether it's cheerleading, football, all these things. And you got to, look, if your kid can't tumble, let's not travel all over the country and do cheerleading. If your kid is 4'8" and they're in the 7th, 8th, 9th grade, let's not keep them in competitive basketball and make them feel down about themselves when the transition period happens. Like, I see a lot of that. But recreational sports and activity is just a no-brainer in terms of the common sense of being active, fighting obesity, building confidence, learning how to work with other people, building social skills, staying away from, introversion, building relationships with friends lifelong. All of these things are so beneficial to a child's upbringing. And it's the closest thing that kids today can get to the quality of life, the confidence building, the man and woman building of, let's say, 40, 50 years ago when physical education was actually a part of curriculum and people were a lot more active. There's so many benefits to it. And everyone's not going to be an athlete, but it's good just for the camaraderie. It's good to participate. And even if the kids don't like it, let them figure out what they like and what they don't like. Give them a chance. And sports just represents so much. It also brings out competitive spirit in people, which, like it or not, you're competing all the time, whether it's for a parking space, the last cereal box in the grocery store, or a corporate job, or business. It's all competition. And if you don't know how to win and lose, you're going to find out later in life, and it's not not so forgiving.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sports, in my way, somehow represent the same things that a religious construct, because you learn value systems, you learn teamwork, you learn how to work with people, you learn why community is so important. Like I think about when I got done football, and obviously you probably will make it much further than I did, but when I got done that sport, I lacked such basic things like community, such basic things like what is my schedule? Like so many people live their day-to-day life just kind of going through life. And at least when I grew up playing sports, I knew what I was doing with my day. I had
Right.
purpose behind each and every day. And you think that that's default, but in a lot of cases, that's the expectation.
Right.
So when he was younger, why sports?
Well, one of the things you just said that we forgot to bring up is occupation of time. And having something to do is a big deal, right? If he wasn't doing what he's doing, he might be throwing bricks at cars. He might be over at somebody's house that I'm not familiar with and doing God knows what. He might be doing a myriad of things. And on top of the fact that if he's not building confidence, I'm sure he's going to start experimenting with drugs at an early age and all the things that come with that. And so there's so many reasons. Now, I will tell you specifically in his case, his mother is a Hall of Fame athlete from Wake Forest. She's played professional soccer. She's one of the best volleyball players that ever played in the ACC, one of the best volleyball players and soccer players that's ever played in South Florida out of St. Thomas Aquinas High School. And so sports was not an option, not to mention we knew this dude was going to be massive. And so as soon as I saw an opportunity to get him involved, I remember the day, he probably does too, in the gym, I saw a coach working with some kids, and I just ran up to him. I was like, "Can you please work with my kid?" And when he did, he was like, "Why would I work with your kid?" And he wasn't believing at me first, but then his mom walked up, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do this." His mom's jacked. You know, she's 6 feet tall, walks around 11% body fat, you know, ripped. And he saw the mom and he was like, okay, I'll start working with him. And he was horrible. He was out there on the court dancing, you know, doing TikToks and stuff like that for a while. Parents were making fun of us because he was dropping the ball in the game and just really like actually making fun of my kid on the basketball court. And I never said anything about it. And now he's something special.
Let me ask you, when you started it, when did you start to get that itch of like, I remember being in your spot and being a novice and starting something and not being great at it. But I remember every time that would happen, I was like, I kind of want to come back. I want to get better. I want to feel what it's like to be good at this. When did you realize, okay, number one, I think I can be good at basketball. When did you get that confidence? And then when did you get that obsession of like, this is what I want to do?
Well, I feel like I got the obsession of basketball probably 4th grade, because every grade before that I was terrible at basketball. I would put up multiple shots, not make a layup or anything. And I felt like after about 4th grade, that's when I kind of was like, I can do this. Basketball is a sport for me, and I'm really good at it now. And I worked every day to get better at it. So I feel like probably 4th grade, that's when I started to work harder.
Did your dad give you the belief, or did you have to work for the belief that you could do it?
It was both. I had to believe in myself. I still sometimes doubt myself that I can't do stuff. And he's there every day telling me that you can do something, even when I think I can't. So I feel like it was just both of us kind of helping myself, but he was also helping me, telling me that I can do it, even when I thought I couldn't.
I think it's really, I didn't know that we were going to go here right away, but I want to. The lack of a male figure in the household is so prevalent now. I didn't grow up with a dad like you. Like, I didn't grow up with somebody there when I'm down, or even when I don't want to show up, them being like, no, you're going, or all that type of stuff. That is so important in today's day and age, yet we're losing it more and more. Why was it important for you? I know we know about your history and like where you've come from. Why was it important for you to be such an active father in your son's life?
One, it's so funny. I always joke about this, but it's like kind of serious. I'm 44 years old. I don't know if you guys grew up with Hallmark movies.
Mm-hmm.
When I grew up, especially around like the late 80s and 90s, something must have happened because the theme of all the movies and everything was like, damn, dad wasn't at my basketball game. Dad wasn't this. Like all the commercials were like, be present, be a super dad. And you see that, I think, with a lot of people in my generation. And so that was just some kind of ingrained. I did grow up with a good father. I do wish, though, that when I pushed so hard against sports, when I got into some things I shouldn't have been doing, and it was one of my. I wish my parents would have brutally forced me, like Michael Jackson, Joe Jackson style.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna get your ass in there and do it, and don't say you're not. Like, I wish that had happened. And so I know that I gave up opportunities because I'm very good at the things that I do and dedicate myself to. And so I know I left a lot on the table by fighting my parents. I don't want to go to practice today. I don't want to do that. And they just kind of let it go. So I knew I couldn't do that with him. And my wife wasn't going to let it happen. But this is part of this who I want to be, right? I don't want to leave anything on the table. I feel very, very passionate about the outcomes of him, everybody in my family, my wife, my daughters. I feel like it's a reflection of myself. I feel like it's a reflection of my work. And it's pretty crappy to neglect your children if that's not something that has to be done. Like, and I just couldn't sleep with that or live with that. And so it's a priority for me. I want it all. And one of the things I want is to have healthy, happy children that actually like me at the end. Like, I like hanging out with my kids. I really do. Like, me and him drove out here. We're spending 5 days together. We're getting a hotel. We're going to the pool. I like hanging out with my kids, all my kids. I don't ever really want them to leave. Sometimes I go on trips now and I like fly back early and I change my flight just because I want to like be near my kids. And sometimes not doing anything. I might just have a drink in my hand, just around, but I like being around the kids. And so it just wasn't an option. And I will never forget this, though. When he was really, really young, I watched the Mike Tyson documentary, and Mike Tyson was adopted by the older white guy off the streets. I forgot what his name was. And he said something that really changed me. And Kiana can testify to this, if this is true or not. He said he used to lie to Mike every night. And every night he would go to bed, he would tuck Mike Tyson into bed, even though he was a teenager, and say, "Good night, Mike. Oh, by the way, you're the best. You're the best. I just want you to know you're the best." He said every single night and every single day he told Mike Tyson the best, to the point that Mike Tyson couldn't be told he wasn't the best. He got into his subconscious and brainwashed him into thinking he was the best, the Mike Tyson that we know. And so I was like, I'm going to do that with my kids. And you can ask them. I tell them this all the time. Who's the best? I make them repeat it. I don't do this with him anymore, but his little sister report, who's the best? Me, Dad. Who? What's your name? Storm. I'm the best. I'm the best, over and over. And one thing my parents did with me is I always tell people my parents lied to me, and they told me I was special and I was handsome all the time. So you could never have told me that I wasn't handsome
Or
ever.
special.
And you could never tell me that I wasn't smart or special, even though everyone was telling me that all the time. Teachers like, you're an idiot, you make bad grades, you get D's and F's, you're F up, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Just rolled right off.
Yeah. And so I wanted to instill that in him even greater and let it manifest. It's my duty.
How do you integrate work ethic into the day-to-day life of your kids, all as such where it feels like they're not really, like, as a kid I never felt like I was working, but I was always working. How do you balance that?
With the chores part, I failed with the chores. And I'm just gonna say his room is my failure. It's pretty disgusting. And then my little 8-year-old, she's a little like princess, and so she's just like, I failed with chores and with housekeeping and home economics. I've failed right now. I'm trying to work on that, but I don't do anything other than require them to do the same level of output that I do. And they can never tell you that I'm not 24/7 hustling and grinding. I don't play. I don't play. I do what I say all the time, and I do what I say for them. I don't make them false promises. I keep my commitments. I expect the same from them. And when it comes to his endeavor right now, which is basketball, primarily, the same requirement. And the coaches that we have around him, they don't have to look at the sideline to see like, oh my God, is he going to freak out because I just cussed your kid out? Or if they yoke him up and grab him up and shake him, whatever. Like, bro, he's all yours. Get in his ass, bro. I don't give a damn what you do to him. Take him to the brink. You know, this is a community situation in which we're trying to build something through a lot of pressure. And when the pressure is too much, he is in a loving place or whatever. But we're going to take him to the limit, and we're going to build something strong. And the reason why he doesn't back down from it, and you can speak on this yourself, is because he knows that I'm not backing down from it. And so it is about being accountable, and I can only expect from him what I do myself. And he's in my routine every day, and he sees his mom's routine every day. So that he doesn't have anywhere to hide from accountability and from the level of effort that's needed to get to where he wants to be.
Yeah. How do you see it? How do you interact with the day-to-day monotony of trying to get better every day?
I'd probably say like even when I don't feel like going and waking up and going to the gym, he kind of forces it on me sometimes. But it's just like he always like tells me just do this. It's gonna benefit you somehow. At the end of the day, it's gonna benefit you. Do this, it's gonna benefit you. Like I probably go to the gym every day now, and I probably am in the gym for at least 2 hours. I'm hooping for an hour. I'm working out for an hour. Just putting in the little effort every day. It just benefits me somehow, and I feel like that really helps all the time.
And that's the thing that I think that is missed is like I had the best business advice I ever got was somebody like who owned a bunch of restaurants. And he said, I don't care what your best day of work looks like. I don't care if you went in, put 16 hours in from sun up to sundown. Like, I don't care. What are you doing on your least active days? Are you at least, like he calls it in his business, organizing your cups? Like in the restaurant business, like just go in, organize. He goes, as long as I would go in and just organize my cups every day. Obviously, you have days of high output, you have days of low output, but that consistency over a long enough time period has always never failed. Not once has that consistency ever failed. How have you, going from, like we talked about it earlier, but like growing out of the concrete, growing out of hard times, how has consistency represented, or how has consistency proven true in your life?
Because I don't have an option to not be consistent. This also goes into observation. So, just like we talked about why my son is building some good habits, why would he build these habits if he didn't believe me? Why would he build these habits if he didn't see me doing it? Why would he build these habits if he didn't see it working for other people? Why would he build these habits if it wasn't working for his mother? So, therefore, when I look to see how I'm going to get to where I'm going to go, I only want to get that pathway from people who have been there before. And when I pick up on a pattern, which is what consistency creates, is a pattern, then it's undeniable, then I must do this. The frustration that many people have and the depression that many people have comes from your subconscious knowing that this is the only way to do it, and then you're not doing it. I suffer from this sometimes too, because I'm capable of creating very, very, very big things. But sometimes I don't want to sit in Starbucks for a week by myself and do that because it represents pain to my subconscious and my brain. So I know that I don't have a choice, and I know that when I lack consistency, then I am delaying my gratification and all the things that I want. And quite simply, I want a lot of nice opportunities. I want freedom. I talked to somebody about this the other day, my wife and everybody else. I want Monday to be Saturday. Okay?
Yep.
Everybody thinks Monday's Monday for the most part. Now, when I say everybody, I'm making a generalization. Most people think Monday's Monday. Got to get up. Hey, you want to go on the boat Monday afternoon? We're going to get some drinks. We're going to go to Bahamas, right? Bro, I got to go to, what do you mean? I can't go to, it's a Monday, right? That's what most people are going to say. It's Monday. That's not good, bro. That's not what I want, right? And the reason I say that is because when you're able to look over the mountaintop and see that there's people over there that Monday is Sunday and Tuesday is Saturday, and actually there isn't really a title a day. Today's just today because my life just flows with it the way I want. Some people think that's pie in the sky. It's not. It's the reality for many people, and that's what I want. And the only way to do that is to be consistent, because we have to be inching our way to that every single day, and to be able to measure the progress in order to ever get to live this life that we want, whatever it may be that you want. And so the consistency is the only way to do it. I know people say this on repeat. How about you not say it? How about it be evident in what you do? And I'm a franchisor, and this is one of the reasons why I sold a majority of my company, is because I was getting so sick and tired of people telling me that they wanted to buy into this lifestyle and buy into this dream, and I want to be like you, and I think it looks cool. But dude, nobody wants to be consistent. There's some people that do, but the majority of people don't want to be consistent. It's too painful for them.
I recently just ran a 50K that I failed last year, and it's one of the hardest in the country. I set out on that goal 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, I was not the person that could end up completing that race. I just wasn't. I showed up 2 years ago or a year ago and failed it because I just wasn't the person that I needed to be in order to do that. It was day after day after day for 3 years having to show up, not see an ounce of result, because I was working for one single day. This is something that, like, being an athlete, it's like one of the number one things that you're kind of preparing yourself to do is work hundreds of thousands of hours for one moment to show up. And in that one moment, that is where, like, even for me, it's like I did a 50K. I worked 3 years for one day, and it was the most painful day of my life. And I literally worked for 3 years, a full 15 hours of work, like, climbing this mountain, to end for one feeling of satisfaction. And that feeling of satisfaction was like a day and a half. So 3 years for a day and a half of like, all right, you did it. And then guess what? Next day I wake up, all right, what's next?
Right.
Because that's the reality of this life. It's way more painful than anybody wants to believe it actually is.
Yeah, but it's not really just for a day. If you think about it, what people don't understand is, it's an invisible trophy, and it's an invisible accomplishment and superpower that fuels all other endeavors going forward. So until someone can do 50K, they can never compete with you now. Never.
You can't take that away from me.
Yeah. And even if you, God forbid, had something happen to your legs or whatever, and you roll up in a wheelchair or crutches, dude, I still am a 50K dude. Because the 50K really wasn't done by your body. The 50K was done upstairs, right? So you can never take that away from anybody. And that's what consistency produces. And consistency is a weapon, and it's a tool against the masses, because most people won't and cannot do these things. They just don't have the discipline. So
it's the pain that I think, like, well everybody, I'm in this, like, feeling of, like, the I feel statements make me crazy. Like, the I feel bad, I feel unhappy, I feel all these things. If I went with I feel in that race on Saturday, I would have never completed it, because I felt like quitting 3 miles into the race. You know what I mean? And it's that idea of how I ended up getting through it, and how I think most people get through hard days is, where am I right now? Can I take another step? Okay, I took another step. Can I take a step after that? When things in your business, because I know it was not all good. It was up and down, and days that you felt like everything was going to be gone, and days that you felt like you were on the moon. Like, how did you keep going? How did you persist?
So I'll answer that. And then I think that would probably be something I'd really be interested to hear from him because he's the bystander.
Yeah.
And I don't never know. I always think about it now. Like, be careful what you're sharing and how you do it because he's seen a lot of that stuff. Probably more than I know. But how I think one of the things that helps is the kids.
Mm.
I went bankrupt before, and it was very trying to my subconscious, everything in my body. And I remember telling my wife to leave me at that moment. Leave me. I am not a man. Like, I can't provide or whatever. And she didn't. And we went through a process. And when we got through that process and he was born, I quit my entrepreneurial endeavor that I had started because I was of this question here, because I was so afraid that that would happen and that my son would see me come home and tell him I got to move him somewhere because his dad just wasn't good enough, couldn't make it, did something stupid or whatever. So that's drilled in here with everything that I do. And so that's a driver, that the chip on your shoulder mixed with your kids are watching, mixed with your wife is watching, mixed with pride, and mixed with all of the 50Ks in my life, which I'm talking about other things, but my version of 50Ks all kicked in to support that. And it all comes together so well when you're able to be in tune with your mental intelligence, your spirituality, and your physical grit. Drop for your show. Spiritual, mental, physical, meaning like how much you can take, and a lot of it stops at the physical, right? Like, you know, your stress levels, all that stuff, but then it also goes into the spiritual, and then it also goes into the mental. How much pain and learning, because sometimes you have to learn your way out of things, and the brain's response to learning, which is why kids, especially young men, don't like to study, is because they don't realize the brain's first response is just like picking up the weights for the first time. You got to stretch it, and condition it to learning. Otherwise, it sees it just as pure pain and labor. And so it was pulling from all of those things at the right time. And if I didn't have those things, I never would have made it through. And so I've had a lot of situations in my life. The hardships were the greatest tools to fix the problems and to keep me in there. And then there's a couple of times where that wasn't even enough. And it was between either my wife, my father, Charles Washington, my mom, Mary Washington, and my business partner at one point, because there was times I was done, and he was like, "We're not." He's like, I don't, and for him, it wasn't about any quantification of like numbers or probability. It probably was almost improbable. He's like, "We're just not quitting. We can't quit." And I was like, trying to quit. He's like, "We're not quitting," and because I reached my limit. But then that alone, that right there, built up another callus that now I can draw upon because I've been to the depths, didn't quit, and now quitting looks a lot different now. Bro, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a take.
I love that idea because you never know what you can withstand until you withstand it. And very rarely in my hardest times was I truly doing something for myself. I was doing it for the people next to me. On my worst days in business, the reason why I love having partners is because I can look to my left and look to my right. And like yesterday, we had a meeting and we were all sitting in a circle and we were talking about problems. And we were like, you know what? I got soldiers that I'm going into battle with. I got people. I feel that strength. And what we talked about a lot earlier today when we were going through our strategy is like this idea that people are locked in cages of isolation to where they don't have any purpose on why to persist. Why, when that going gets tough, why you need to take that extra step.
So we're building that story right now. We're breaking down that story right now. And the reasons why are some of the things that we've just talked about just now, why people are not capable. You mentioned lack of fathers. You mentioned some things that really go into the foundation. And if you can't if you're coming from a place where your foundation isn't strong, anything will break you or you'll take the easy way out a lot of time. And so it's all these little things that are really important in our development that decide these things for us a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so knowing that again goes into raising a kid and just being like, bro, this can't be on my watch. Your failure can't be on my watch, you know. But I would be interested, because I've never asked this before, I would like to know what he saw, because I always felt bad about that, coming home and just really putting this on my kids and my family. I've done a lot of that, you know.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have seen this, and I don't know. I mean,
what is the hardships that your dad has been through taught you?
I mean, usually he would come home from work, really stressed and upset. He usually come home, maybe have a drink, and then probably go talk to my mom about it usually. But it was just like, you gotta talk through stuff more than just like deal with it yourself. Because if you deal with it yourself, you're just gonna be mad at yourself, and you're gonna have all these thoughts in your head. You really gotta talk about it with people. That's something I have to work on still now, because I don't really like to talk about my emotions. But he would come sometimes and just like be upset. But I feel like it just taught me just to talk about my emotions. It's okay to express your feelings to people, even when you think they're not going to take it seriously. But I say just express your feelings to let people know how you feel. But I feel like him, like from what I've seen, is just that the business has come a long way from when it started. I remember when the pandemic started and all the hurricanes that happened, he thought the business was going to fail, like it was going to close entirely. So I remember him coming home being stressed out all the time and just not always being hopeful. But at the end of the day, the business has done really well and been successful. So I feel like just the hardships can kind of get you through to better places most of the time. Just the way you look at it, I feel like.
And it's also the days that you did come home and everything. As an entrepreneur, I feel like if I've learned anything, those days that you get punched in the mouth are really just like a dime a dozen. It's just always like you're going to get, if you're running a business, you're going to get punched in the mouth like day after day. But what you talked about, what you drew on inspirations, those chips on your shoulder, those days that you're going home and you feel like the world's crumbling, why get up the next day?
the kids. It's really the kids. For me, you know, and everything's in its right place, for at least in my life. I don't know if everybody's able to really take a step back and look at their blessings, whatever you want to call them, depending on what your faith is, or if you don't have faith at all, I really can't connect with that, because there's, in my opinion and in what I've learned, there's absolutely no way that everything is just because we're just here and nothing's connected. A lot of these things are connected. I mean, it's like Back to the Future. You know, you don't want to cause a paradox. You know, if you touch one thing, don't touch one thing in the past, or you're going to destroy the future, right? And so that's entertainment. But the truth of the matter is, if I had touched one thing, I wouldn't be here. If I hadn't gone through other hardships, wouldn't be here. And so, I think it's the kids. I think it was the kids. And then when it wasn't the kids, it was the chip on the shoulder. It was the person that made fun of me. It was the guy that said that our business wasn't going to make it. It was the people in high school that, you know, thought that, you know, you're never going to be anything.
Yeah.
Those are the greatest things to draw upon. And you're in the back of your head and you're like, watch.
It was so interesting. I went through a phase when I first started my business. It was a survival thing. At the time, like everybody out of college went and got jobs. Like they all went to corporate and got jobs. And I told myself I just wasn't going to do that. It didn't matter if I made zero money. And for the first year of my business, I made $15,000 the entire year. I'm talking like $150 paychecks at the end of every month. That motivation was pure survival. Waking up, my ass is on fire, like legit fire. I can't even stay in bed for longer than 20 seconds because I know I have a full day of stuff ahead of me. It was last year when the business transitioned and I wasn't in that, or it was really 2 years ago when that I totally got out of that. But I had a moment for about 6 to 8 months where I was finding my next chip because I didn't have anything. When I got engaged, everything flipped for me because now I wasn't just doing it for me. I was doing it like I used to use the motivation of somebody telling me I couldn't do something, and that would be the main driver. Now I have such a belief in me. I can't even listen to these people that say I can't because I believe so strongly that I can. But the motivation, that drive, is every time I wake up in the morning, I'm like, she's depending on me. And when you're talking about the kids, it's like that. I'm so connected to that because I'm like, so many people are living their life for purely themselves. And that is not a strong enough motivator, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it sounds simple, right? I mean, it's just like, yeah, because I want to be respectable and looked up to by my children. But you're right. I was at tennis the other day, and I was looking at a dad, and I was looking at his daughter, and all these things that we're talking about were coming to my mind, and I'm just like, how can you feel comfortable representing yourself like that in front of your daughter? And I see your daughter. She's what I think she was in 6th or 7th grade, and she was pretty overweight and kind of funny looking, wearing some funny clothes. And I'm like, and I know how this turns out, right? You know that she's going to struggle. You know that she's going to have to look at other people doing things that she wants to do, and she's going to feel insecure and uncomfortable about it. And then she's going to look at you, and I see where she's getting it from, because you're 45 years old and you don't give a damn and you don't care. And on top of that, he was like over there telling her, run faster, do this, do that. And I'm like, bro, I can look at you and tell that you're not competent and capable of doing anything that you're telling your kids to do right now. So you're creating a cycle. You're going to create a 40, 50, 60-year-old hardship for somebody because you don't want to do the things that we're talking about. You don't realize that something's got to change. You don't realize that this isn't working. And it's sad. And he's just an example of so many people. And I think it's disgusting. I think it's problematic. I think that I always tell people that the one group of people that you can be mad at until you're about 17, 18 years old is your parents. If you got fucked up parents, dude, you have every right. And I'm not saying because your mom and dad took your Xbox. And I'm not saying because your mom didn't buy you a brand new Bronco for your 16th birthday, or they don't let you go to sleepovers and parties, what they probably shouldn't be letting you. I'm talking about because your parents weren't hard on you to a certain degree. And again, I'm not talking about abusive, but like that your parents didn't make you go get a job. Your parents didn't put you on at least rec sports. Your parents didn't give you any kind of enrichment, maybe teach you how to cook or do your laundry or something like that. All the stuff you probably didn't want to do. Like, that's messed up, man. And you know what? They knew better. They knew better. They knew that where they are in their lives, you could do better. You know what I'm saying? And that there's a better way. But instead, they chose not to reinforce these things and not to teach you these things and not go out. They wanted to just run home with a 6-pack of beer and pass out on the couch. So they threw you a new Xbox for Christmas and told you to go disappear. They did that to you, bro, because they want to take an antidepressant, drink beer, your mom's drinking wine and Xanax, whatever it is. Bro, okay, I want to do that. I want to zone out. I want to zone out too. I don't get to zone out, because if I zone out, then he zones out, they zone out, then he's the guy that you see sitting on the corner begging for money, or smoking crack and meth or whatever it is, because I did that. I did that. And then he goes and inadvertently kills somebody or does something. I did that. He came to me as a blank slate. He came to me like a whiteboard, bro. I did that, bro. And your parents did that. And so, yes, there's outliers. Yes, there's a percentage of chance that this guy may just ignore everything that I tell him and turn it to delinquency. But I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm not going to, this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
What I learned from my mom was like, she did so many things physically around me that she put me in the right environment. She put me in sports. Like, the best parenting I got was indirect from my mom. And it was not what I was told to do. It was what I was shown.
Boom.
And when I always said my mom every day, 7:00 in the morning, no matter if she felt like it or not, she was up. I would wake up and she's in the garage working out. Right. And I'm walking in, and now all of a sudden I'm walking in and she's working out. Then she goes and works 12 hours and then shows up and doesn't ignore her kid. That shit makes me to this day like just these like
It's hard.
it's so
That's
hard.
hard, bro. That's really hard.
And it was unforgiving. She was a single mom. She
You
had nobody else.
said that earlier that, okay, you said she's a single mom. So now I obviously encourage both parents to be involved. I think that's the best.
Best
But
by far.
I also have seen people using not having a dad sometimes as a crutch, which, look, again, your parents are at fault. But that doesn't mean that the mom or the dad can't do everything they can to compensate for the lack thereof of the other person. So it still doesn't take away the responsibility to try your best. And so I've seen a lot of people who are raised by single mothers make it and have good lives and be responsible and contribute to society. So again, it should reflect again on the ones who aren't, because there are plenty of women that didn't do what your mom. These women, bro.
We're about to get into that.
Yeah,
I want to get into the culture.
it's not okay. It's not okay. It's just absolutely not okay. And in the fitness aspect of what you're saying, and you watching that growing up, it's ingrained in your subconscious. It becomes who you are. It becomes the standard, the bottom of what's acceptable. And from there is where your foundation is built. And that's probably why you're 20 something years old, or you're ahead of, bro. I know a lot of 20-year-olds, right? Like, they're not enterprising. You know what I'm saying? And if they are, many of them think they are, and they're not enterprising. And so it's no excuse.
It's going to where we're at in society when we look at society as a whole, and we look at why there's so many broken households and why there's so much disconnection, and why parenting is no longer. If for some people parenting is not a medal of honor, they don't want to get kids. They don't want the burden of kids. They don't want to put themselves in this position. As a man, what is the role and the value of a good woman in your life, and how do you find that?
Well, first and foremost, I don't knock anybody for not wanting to have kids right now. On paper, it does not make sense.
Financially, no.
And most people, I wish there was a licensing board to have children. I think that would eradicate most of this country's problems, because unwanted children are the root cause of most of our problems. Unwanted children become unwanted members of society, and they do unwanted activities to people, and they create victims. And so child rearing and raising is no joke. Everybody shouldn't have a child. Biologically, a lot of people should not be having children together. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a biological act. We're talking about reproduction. Are we really trying to reproduce certain things? You know what I'm saying? No, we want to reproduce the best, in our work, in society, and everything. And so that's a wholly different conversation. In terms of, you said finding a good woman and the importance of that. Look, I had him read a letter. Tell him real quick what you read real quick, and then we'll talk about this. What I just thought, what his mom was digging through a crate the other day from 1998.
So the letter was, my dad was writing a letter to my mom because he was going to Howard University, and that he was obsessed with my mom. He really loved my mom, and he wrote her a note because she had offers from almost a lot of division colleges, and so he wrote her a letter telling her that he wanted her to come to Howard, and he was just expressing how much he loved her, and that he really wants to marry her, and that she was just the love of his life, and that she meant everything to him, and that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her.
This was at 17 years old. I'm 44 years old now. I saw my wife when I was 15 years old. I have a picture of her like a creep that I took with a disposable camera when I was 15 years old at a party. And I remembered her. And then I saw her again. And then I started to pursue her. And she was, a star athlete. And she looked and appeared to be and carried herself the way that I envisioned the person that I would be with because of what we were talking about before. She was the nemesis of a Sexy Red. She was a nemesis of a Sukiana, of a Meg Thee Stallion, of a Cardi B. She was classy. athletic, fit, scholar, okay? All of these things, right? And so I took her out on a date, and I told my mom when I brought her over that I know I'm going to college, but this is the woman that I want. If I could, I would put her on a shelf because this is the person that I want to marry. This is the marrying type, okay? And so to answer your question, I think it's extremely important. I didn't know that at the time per se, but my subconscious did because I was raised by a woman who held herself to a certain accord. And what I didn't know is that first of all, it's simple math, right? And a lot of young people are going through this right now, by the way. It's very difficult to make it in the world, right? You got to watch your back all the time.
For sure.
You have high expenses. You're trying to figure out what to do. If you're the sole breadwinner, then you're not as flexible. You make bad decisions. If you're male and you're heterosexual and you don't have one woman, what does that mean? Probably got a lot of women. In and out, instability, chaos, psychopaths, flattened tires, broken windows, you name it, people showing up to your job. That doesn't allow you to create. That doesn't allow you to maybe buy your first home. That doesn't allow for maybe you to lose your job and then still be able to make it and survive while you're figuring out what you want to do versus what you don't want to do and things to kick in. You don't have in-house therapy to make sure you're not crazy, to assess your situations, evaluate whether you're in the wrong or they're in the wrong, to self-correct, to maybe have just a hug, right? To have somebody to spend some time with. There's just so many different things that go into that as I look in hindsight, which, trust me, it took me a long time to actually figure these things out too. I'm not like, I always said I'm not like husband of the year by any means. But something in my subconscious told me that was important to me and that I wanted to spend my time with someone who was a high quality person. And that if I was ever going to have, I definitely realized if I was ever going to have kids, stop dating like these like broke-minded women. Stop dating like trashy women. Stop dating people that come from poor backgrounds, And I'm not talking about financial because she actually did not come from a financially stable, I would say, background. But dating people of substance, what happens if you get this person pregnant? Like, would you want to raise a kid? And what happens if you get this person pregnant? Is this kid going to be like what kind of kid is going to come out? Like, is it going to be better? Is it better than? Is it something you're to be proud of? I've seen people embarrassed with their kids before, by the way. I've seen women and men have, usually women have children with men that maybe, let's just say that they weren't proud of. And I've seen that. A lot of people are being raised like that. Like I don't want to get into that. It's going to offend some people. But look, what I'm saying is that it's important. And it's important in so many ways because it's a foundation. People always make the commentary behind every strong man, there's a good woman. And I know a lot of people say that, but start doing your research.
Look at the consistency, a Bezos and Gates is not a great example, but because once they became billionaires,
right.
But guess what?
They
built. Most empires are built with a steady 2-person household.
Absolutely.
Most of them. And like my mom was obviously a single mom, and she had ingrained it into me at the very, very beginning of like, I said, Mom, I want to be successful. I want to have money. She goes, she works in healthcare. All the doctors that ended up having incredibly storied careers, all the executives, all of them were married to most likely their high school or college sweetheart, and they persisted.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge deal, by the way. I try to make this known to young people, especially to my 23-year-old daughter, and I tell this to him all the time. Actually, if you bring up some athletes right now, I don't know how consistent this is, but a lot of the time, you're Patrick Mahomes, these type of people, LeBron, all these type of people, right? Kobe, okay? And what I tell people all the time, anybody that's listening to this, especially young women and young men, this is a draft pick, guys, okay? The first round of the draft is in middle school. The baddest chick in middle school has some smart young man who's going to be in her ear, and he's going to take her ass off the market.
Mm-hmm.
You think this is a joke or whatever? Middle school. He's locked in from middle school. My sister, who just got married, she's young. I believe they met in middle school.
7th grade.
7th grade. Boom. There you go. 7th grade. Now, your second round draft pick, bro, is high school.
Yeah.
The best chick in high school. She's the best chick in the world, by the way. She's young. Maybe let me stop what I was going to say. She's young, probably, young, not been in the streets, okay? Highly valued, right? By any standard. That's the second round, bro. Like, if you don't get her then, she's done. Someone's taken her off the market, bro. So she's gone. College guys, like it or not, you're in the third round, dude, in college. The third round. It's the girl who somehow nobody locked down in high school. Don't know how the hell that happened, but somehow she made it to high. And a lot of these girls, they have guys back home.
Oh.
A lot of the time. They're not really available. They might be having fun or whatever, but they're not really available. So college is the third round. And if you don't meet them in college or in that time frame, if you don't go to college, then you're in the fourth round. That's like about to be like 25. And after 25, if you're a female and she's still out there, why? You mean to tell me that nobody in middle school wanted her, nobody in high school wanted her, nobody in college wanted her, and then nobody at her first job or that first part of her career wanted her? Okay, and then what happens after 25? Metabolism slows down, things start to change, okay? And sometimes now we're starting to see that there's probably some behaviors and activities and things like that are keeping away some kind of mental issues, whatever. And so that's like, what, the fifth round, bro, after that? And after, I don't care what you say, dude, after 33, 30 years old, don't come at me with this independent woman stuff. I don't need a man, all that kind of stuff. No, something's off. And that's why now, after that point, you go to every metropolitan city in the country, and what do you see? Go to every city: LA, New York, Detroit, Denver, Miami, Atlanta, Boston. Go downtown, every condo, what do you see? Hot chicks, French bulldogs walking around, or whatever the dog is, or whatever, or they got a cat upstairs, meet their friends 2 to 3 times a week for wine or whatever, and everybody's trying to mask the fact that something's missing, okay? Something's missing. You can be mad about this if you want, but we just went through the statistics. We can really roll them out if you want about presidential statistics, politician statistics, leadership, corporate leaders, high-performing athletes, the best of the best directors and actors and entertainers in Hollywood, musicians and artists. Every single one of them would play into what I just said and what you just said, and not what these people who are going to be all triggered by the fact that they're, 35 years old in the condo walking the French bulldog talking about, I'm an independent woman. That's not winning. You can't convince me that you are. You can't convince me that you're not up there with a few bottles of pills, popping them with the wine and not crying yourself to sleep a few nights. And if you, and in between that, you're on Tinder and you got a different guy coming over every single night, taking your soul, by the way. So now you nothing's good enough because this guy had something and that guy had something and that guy had something, but none of them want you.
Oh, man.
But you gave them everything. And you're trying to sell this stuff to people like this is what's up. It's not what's up. And I promise you, you're not having the nights that I'm having when I'm coming home and I get to sit on the couch with my son or hug on my children, you know what I'm saying? Or dialogue with the family or whatever. Dude, and everybody can't have children, by the way. So I'm not knocking that, but you can't adopt. Mm-hmm. You can't adopt. But there's something about having a family. There's something about having a mate and a partner. And it's not always going to work out. And we don't all make the best decisions. But there's something about that since the dawn of time, whether it's the Bible, the Torah, any type of history, you always see this. There's always the man and the woman together building.
You cannot build an empire on unstable foundation.
Absolutely.
You just can't. And I think one of the things that what you just said about the rounds was like the most genius thing I'd ever heard in my life. And thinking about the situation that I was in was my now fiance was in middle school, was dating for I think 4 years. The high school like the quarterback, like the 6'4", everybody knew the name, 5-star talent, like had that all locked up. So I almost missed what would have been my 3rd round pick. I would have missed my 3rd round pick because she was about to get picked in the 2nd. And like that's how slim the margins in life are. And it's like I think the thing with guys these days is they think, because we just talked about from the woman's perspective, from the man's perspective, there's this cultural movement around the lifestyle and the partying and the competitive nature of going out and trying to win, like, you know what I mean? Going out to the bar and trying to win, that whole idea. I don't knock that because when I was in college, I was doing the same shit. When I was in high school, I was doing the same shit. Like we love to feel that ego being fed, but you can't build greatness on top of something that's already crumbling. And like in a lot of cases, when I was at my lowest, and we just talked about this, it's like when I was at my lowest, if it weren't for Jordan, if it weren't for her being there, knowing the best moment that I can say to that is I put everything in race terms because that's where I get a lot of my tough, like I put up myself through a lot through that, but I was racing for a triathlon and I was terrified of the swim, terrified. Like I'm not a good swimmer. I thought I was like, and we're 3 weeks out and I hurt my shoulder just barely hurt my shoulder. And I called Jordan and I go, you know what? I just messed up my shoulder. I'm not really. And she goes, this isn't who you are. She goes, you're not a pussy. You're not going to quit like this. And it was like a moment for me that I was like, it really hurt when she said that. And I was like, she's an asshole, whatever. But she knew me. She knew who I was in that trying time and called me out for it in that moment of like, you're not this person. You don't identify this. This isn't the standard. This isn't what I've signed up for. And that type of pulse that somebody can hold and a mirror that somebody can hold out in front of you is the most valuable. Like we can't even put a price tag on that because they know you. I mean, your wife has known you since you were, 16 years old. She knows you at 16. She knows you at 30. She knows you at now 45. It's like, what is the value of that?
Tell you what's it. Did this go off for you?
Okay, that's fine. We're still recording on all of these. No, you're good.
Cool.
You gotta pee? Okay. We're good here. Cool. Let's keep rolling.
Yeah. So the value in that I was not mature enough to understand until the last few years. So all these things that I'm saying, I wasn't saying this 10 years ago, dude. I lost a lot of time. I always tell them I'm 10 years behind. There was a good period where I'd never seen the morning on a Saturday and Sunday. I was drunk in bed, waking up for years like that, missed out on my life, didn't feel like this. Not something I'm proud of at all. It's actually something I'm really upset and disappointed in, but I guess that's what's gotten me here now, to this realization. But the importance of that is it's shown up in every aspect of my life. When I've had to create a business, when I've had to write a letter, when I have to go to war with someone, and whether it's legally or in business or in life, having a sounding board, being able to fine tune decisions, being able to fine tune introspection, being able to show up to problems. I mean, there's two of us, bro. It's like a gang, if you pick the right person, it's like a gang. It's literally having somebody facing backwards and you're facing forwards. And that's how you're going through life. And if you pick the right person, especially if they're also like a genetic match and fit for you biologically, you get to improve upon yourself and what you're doing, which is what I consider, my children. It's an improvement. They're version 2.0 of us. And so there's a lot of value in that in terms of survivability, competition, dividing and conquering, whether it's rooms or business or whatever it is, and just going through the journey of life with someone that can hold your hand every step of the way. There's also, I've been told, some clinical and health and wellness benefits to these things as well that I don't understand, but I believe them. And we're biological creatures, and we mate with people. Before Instagram, TikTok, all this stuff, bro, 60 years ago, this wasn't a debatable thing. It was very strange to not have a partner, or something was like wrong with you or whatever, or you're, I don't know, I would assume you're either barren, they would call them barren if you couldn't have children, or you're like a whore in a brothel or something like that, or whatever. You know what I mean? But most people, just out of necessity also, like, you got to think, most people, let's just say pre-1900, I mean, you're at a house, you have different duties and roles to do, farming and laundry and cooking and creating clothes, right? And building a home and all of these different things that took two people. And so I think that's the way we were meant to be. And now we're thinking that we aren't, but that's not so. Nothing's changed except for these things in our hands telling you out of business interest that this is no longer for you. It's not in your interest to not have a mate. It's not in your interest to be on Tinder. It's not in your interest to have sex with 100 guys. Okay. It's not in your interest to take Plan Bs multiple times. It's not in your interest to take negative hormones like birth control and risk having a stroke and all this other horrible stuff that happens to your body. None of that's in your interest. Now, guys like it. It's fun, but they're not benefiting you either. I would assume most women would agree to me that these guys that are running up in their apartments and houses and, rotating are not helping them get anywhere. If anything, they're taking things from them internally, they're spiritually, and probably monetarily as well.
By far.
So there's no benefit. But no one wants to talk about that.
No.
Beyonce, Meg Thee Stallion, what is it? Ice Spice? Like what else? All these people are created to turn people against their nature in the pursuit of someone's financial gain.
That is what I want to end it with, which is the consumption part of our society. We've never been consuming more than we are now. We've never had more accessibility to consumption. And in a lot of cases, when you go to a corporate job, you're just being consumed. We're consuming while being consumed. How do we break out of that?
Well, yeah, you're a means to an end when you're in this situation. You're a means to someone else's end in this situation. And it's so interesting because, for instance, when we're looking to place new franchises, there's advanced software that we use. And so this advanced software mimics our consumer. It mimics their behavior. It has data that's brought from your purchases, your school, your level of education, your job, how many kids, all of this stuff. And so we use this data to try to make the best choices and locations that we pick. And many times, if someone's in a different region or different state, they ask us, hey, well, how do we know that your business is going to work in our area? And I tell them the same thing every time. Look, let me tell you something. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this software, right? Let's just say you're in Alaska and I'm in Atlanta. Okay, so what are we going to look for? We're going to look for a Whole Foods. We're going to look for a Starbucks. We're going to look for a Lululemon, which, by the way, is the best indicator of retail business. We're going to look for an Orange Theory. We're going to look for a Club Pilates, and we're going to look for, I don't know, maybe an Equinox gym or something like that, okay? So, cool, we got all these indicators. The sad part about this is that every consumer at this point is the same, and all these brands know it. And so you're going to wake up and you're going to drive to Starbucks, then you're going to drop your kid off to school, then you're going to go to Equinox gym, then you're going to see the girl that had the Lululemon outfit that you like, so you're going to go to Lululemon, you're going to buy that, then we're going to stop at Whole Foods, we're going to get our meal, Then we're going to go to the med spa and we're going to do this. Then we're going to go to our club Pilates class, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and then, by the way, we just picked up the kids and they want a crumble cookie. This is indisputable. All of you guys are the same. Every consumer that participates in this is the same profile. And that's scary. And people don't realize that all you are is a consumer activity measurement. You're a demographic. You are a cog for a P&L. That's all you are for most corporations. And if you think that you're not, go look in your car, go look in your house, go open your closet, and then also go match that to the music that you're listening to, by the way. So why do you drink that vodka you drink? Why are you wearing a Louis Vuitton bag like that your neighbor has? And every woman the same. Why? Why does that make you feel better? Why is Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy the most profitable one of the most profitable companies in the world, with the richest person in the world? What is it, second, third richest person? And those materials cost like a fraction of a percent of what the margin is.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you are basically beating to the tune of someone else's drum. It's a very small group of people, and they can predict your habits and behaviors because they're creating your habits and behaviors. And the more you do it, the more you stay within this loop. And that's just how it works. And so if you want to break out of that, by the way, you can. You have to stop and start questioning your behaviors and your activities. Why am I doing this? Why am I sitting in Starbucks line for 30 minutes when I can make my own coffee? Now, I do this sometimes, by the way, because I'm being lazy.
Yeah.
But I'm saying not everybody should be doing that. You know, if you're making $35,000 a year, you shouldn't be doing that, right? Why are you buying Louis Vuitton and stressing yourself out and maxing out your credit card? Why? It's not doing nothing for you. You know, why are you doing these things? Why are you getting like a Lululemon in-house credit? Why? Like, I wear Lululemon, by the way, but if it impacts my budget negatively, if it takes control away from me, I'm not doing that anymore, man. You know? And so people need to ask themselves why and unplug. Otherwise this will lead to, what it leads to is this. Everything in business is attached now. Everything is consolidated now through private equity, through mergers and acquisitions, conglomerates, family offices. People don't understand that. The company that you think is a mom and pop, a lot of time isn't a mom and pop. And so what this leads to is all these behaviors also leads to another business on the back end, which is the healthcare business, right? And so, like, for instance, I told my friend the other day, I was like, bro, I like to invest in evil stocks, you know, diabetes stuff, like any of this type of stuff that we're talking about right now, because it's all linked together, because it's perpetual. So it perpetuates. So like, if you want to, you can invest in stuff that treats cancer. Where do you think you're getting the cancer from? You know what I'm saying? It's all a pathway. Every pathway is structured to win, right? And so people don't understand. They're like, why am I here? Why did this happen to me? Because someone wanted it to. It's very profitable.
Oh, you're speaking to
You know, my father-in-law just passed. And I was looking at the fact that when he went into the hospital, I told my wife, I was like, they knew he wasn't coming out of here, right? But what do? They get the business manager and they go behind the scenes, and the doctor's talking to the business manager. How long are we going to treat this patient? Well, how long will the insurance pay? All right, so we got to keep him here at least 4 days, okay? And give him at least this many pills and this, and then we'll have the conversation with the family that we could have had day one to say, hey, look, this person's suffering. They're probably not going to make it out of here. And then what happens? Then you go to hospice, Vitus, right? You see the signs everywhere, Vitus. People don't know what that, hospice. Okay, so we know that this person's going to pass, but you're doing things to create a timeline that's in line with the business priorities and what you can pay to prolong someone's life that's suffering. It's all business, and people just they think that they're there to help you. They're there to make money. This is a brand. This is not to help you. How many people you know that go to these hospitals and go through these programs and they get better? Unless they broke an arm or got shot or something like that. Like doctors help with that, but I'm saying, yeah. And so people need to wake up from this stuff. They won't. That's okay, but maybe somebody listening to this will. Maybe 1 or 2 people will. And that's what we're here for, is just the 1 or 2 people that will, because none of this would go on if everybody just woke up at the same time,
Man. Me and Ryan look at each other every time there's what we believe to be a viral conversation that was just had, and we just looked at each other like 10 times during that interview. So
maybe I should also say the thing like, I am not suicidal. I would never kill myself. I've got a clean health record. I work out every day. I'm a pretty safe driver. All that good stuff, man.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna fight some battles together. I'm very excited for it. Where can people find you? Where can people find you if you guys want to see 2026,
2030,
2030? Holy cow! Okay,
it's not going to be till 2030 though.
2030. What?
He'll be on the scene in 2026. He will be everywhere.
Okay,
I'm saying it now. Mark the date.
Cannonball, Washington.
Yes.
2026. Keep an eye out.
Watch. I'm saying
with the Grip Media helping the brand too. Ooh, we got a big brand coming. We got a big brand coming. Carlton, thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you, man. Yeah, so you can find me right now, Carlton _Washington, CARLTON _Washington on Instagram. Respond to everything on there. LinkedIn, Carlton Washington MBA, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as well. I am Carlton on YouTube. And just looking to help people break free of the things that we talked about today.
My Instagram is Cannon _ball_Washington. I do not control it, so you will get no response from me.